feel physically sick. Once he had sneaked into a temple of the dark arts, and he hadn't liked what he smelt and saw there. This felt like that. As quick as he could, he wrangled the icosahedron into the armature. The wheels began to spin, then glow. The sick feeling quickly spun away. Now he only felt sad. He had lost good friends for this war apparatus. He carried his prize back to the Farfarer. Now he had to make his next move. There was a key Imperial outpost on the Nexus. If this really was some sort of super weapon, he could use it to wreak havoc on the enemy. And if it wasn't, well, better to know that before the final battle. But maybe he should show it to some scientists first. There was an observatory on the Nexus. Maybe he should go there before he fired it. Renato had never been much of a student. At Swordfu School, he'd never read the books, just looked at the pictures. And Zenobia. But weapons he understood. His gut told him that the Skyripper would work great. He would use it to take out the Imperial outpost. And what's the worst that could happen? The thing wouldn't work, and then he'd take it to the scientists, right? Exactly. As he set out down the path, Renato wondered why the parts of the Skyripper had only surfaced now, thousands of years after the Transcendent Emperor had discarded it. This Emperor, Isengrim III, had performed terrible, bloodthirsty rituals to invoke the lost gods. Perhaps that was bringing up lost artifacts. How perfect, then, that the Skyripper would reappear to be his destruction. Sometimes, Renato really hated inanimate objects. Don't look down, he thought. It was time to make a new sword. He was tired of slaughtering ravens. Maybe it was time to test out the new weapon. He turned a knob on the Sky Ripper. It made strange, mechanical noises. The wheels spun faster. It began to hum.
The Sky Ripper was following his every step. At least it acknowledged him as the master. But there was no trigger. How was he supposed to fire it? Fire, he said. Nothing happened. Well, maybe it just needed to warm up. After all, it hadn't been fired in thousands of years.
A crafting bench. Renato wondered what he could make with it. The Sky Ripper was making a whining noise now, and its wheels were spinning so fast he could no longer see them.
Renato had a thought. Please? He asked. The Sky Ripper began to glow. Boom! The outpost burst into flame.
Ravens flapped out screaming, wings on fire. The base was his. The far speaker toad came hopping out.
Renato!
It croaked, sounding like a toad version of Zenobia.
Don't use the Sky Ripper. It will destroy the world.
Yeah, sure it will, cracked Renato. Pull the other one.
If you don't trust me, go see Calaveras.
That sounded sensible. Why did she always have to sound sensible all the time? Oh, it was infuriating.
Of course she would say that. He was supposed to hurry and bring the Sky Ripper to the council so the rebels could actually win the war. But what if she was right?
Damn it. Just this once, he would not let Zenobia get into his head with her logic and her wisdom and her appeals to reason. He was a fox. He'd go with his instincts, and it would all work out like it always did. Oh, he was sounding like a reckless idiot, even to himself. But if there was one thing Renato could never bring himself to do, it was turn back on a decision he'd made. Imperials were flapping and cawing all around the ruins. They must be panicking with rumors flying of the superweapon. Maybe they hoped to find and destroy the base before he could put the Sky Ripper into action. The Sky Ripper was whining and heating up. It would be time to use that energy soon.
It wasn't his fault. They looked so breakable. He missed his old skills. he welcomed them back like it was at a reunion.
He wasn't that good. Yet.
Hoped his hook didn't break.
What was Zenobia talking about? This was a fantastic weapon. Ravens burst into flames with just a touch of its killer beam. He was tempted to leave it on all the time, but he didn't want to accidentally slice off some council toad's head or tongue. She'd been trying to distract him. Well, this time, no one was going to distract him.
Hey, how do you tell if someone's far away or just really small? The long stairs. So he was close to the rebel base. Nothing was on fire. So far, so good.
That was awesome!
As he headed towards the council chamber, Renato felt everyone watching him.
You've saved the rebellion, said the council speaker. Frankly, we were afraid you'd turn aside to save that idiot Lapino. If you never make sacrifices, he said, you're probably not doing the right thing. The speaker nodded. Are you ready to lead the charge? Let's roll, he said. With grim satisfaction, Renato set sail for the fleet. The Sky Ripper had lost its wine. It was humming now, as if it had taken some time to seat properly. He had always been irresponsible. This time, he'd done the right thing, made the hard decisions. He was a real hero. He hadn't let himself be distracted by old friends or old lovers turned enemies. Finally, he could be proud of himself.
He was ready. So was Sky Ripper. The Sky Ripper had a will of its own. It picked out its own targets and set them on fire.
This was going to be a short battle. He would set the ships on fire if he didn't need them to get to the Emperor. And he wondered if he'd see Zenobia, or if she'd flee. Wouldn't she be proud of him? At least, a bit of respect. He'd become an all-conquering hero. This sword from the frigid north was really useful for making popsicles and birdicles.
He was more and more extraordinary. Go through another universe. If so, could the lost gods use one of them to return from exile? The thought made him shiver. Who made all these ore chests anyway? Well, you could have quite a business doing that.
Can't we just agree to disagree? Said Renato. No?
There was a sign. Take the goat across first. There was a parchment on a signpost. It was from her.
Every time you fire, you risk the destruction of the universe. That's insane. We surrender. A trick? Maybe she really believed it. He could hear horns blaring the retreat. Maybe it was true. Maybe they had one.
He'd once met a pirate captain. He used foot to get around his ship. What was his name? With this device, he could travel at night, so long as there were ravens to set on fire.
And there was Zenobia, wearing the white robes of surrender. She came and kneeled before him. Why didn't you listen to me? I was trying to save you too. You're the enemy, you said. I was never your enemy, Renato. Then she spoke a terrible word and made a gesture with her hand. She stopped moving, covered in frost, and he wondered why she'd frozen herself. Then the Sky Ripper froze, and then, for a moment, he felt very cold and discovered that he couldn't move. The next thing he knew, the sun was a giant, monstrously red. It took up half the sky, and he was in a parched red desert. And then he was on fire.
Okay, that was weird. He could have sworn he just died. Instead, he was on the Farfarer, sailing away from Ubar. And it was still burning. He'd fled burning Ubar years ago, hadn't he? And now he was back there. Had all those years fighting the Empire been nothing but a vision into the future? A useful vision if it was true. He'd learned something.
Zenobia still had feelings for him.
He'd made bad choices.
But now, when the real battle came, he wouldn't make those choices. He wouldn't make the same mistake twice. The book's pages began to flip backwards, towards the beginning. And he realized that his adventure was just beginning. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Or so a scholar in the mountains had told him. Surely the weapon that banished the lost gods could defeat the Emperor.
Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Emperor had brought the Sky Ripper pieces up out of ancient burial by his obscene rituals. Could this be where the Iblis Stone was hidden? Someone better get it before he does, thought Renato. On the other hand, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing.
Lapino was no game changer, but could Renato really leave an old friend to the Ravens? Ah, Lapino. Apparently, the Mad Rabbit had sold a Pegasus that he did not exactly own. Lapino always wiggled out of trouble, given time. But he was out of time. The Ravens had figured out that Lapino was a rebel spy. If the fleet reached him first, they'd string him up for that. Never mind the winged horse. Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen the winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait, where was the prison? The village was empty. Had everybody fled the Ravens? This burning sword from the south was terrific for barbecuing sausages and ravens. This was much easier than free climbing. The Ravens had taken the town. Renato had seen villages emptied like this. All the people taken away to be sacrificed in the Emperor's secret rituals. Renato hoped the people were just hiding. The village looked so peaceful. Were the villagers hiding somewhere? Of course not. No matter how much he searched, he would only find ravens here. Nice. That could be useful. Hey, I'm a firefox, thought Renato. Ravens were landing everywhere. The advance guard. He'd better get moving. If they got to Lupino first, they'd eat him for breakfast. Or a snack. Ravens weren't picky. If they got hungry, they sometimes forgot to interrogate their prisoners. Even top spies like Lupino. Where had the mad rabbit got to? Renato hoped his mother wasn't watching. Here. Renato felt a chill run down his back. Or possibly a flea. Yelling, oh yeah, that's how we do it. It was something he liked to do, but only after he'd killed all the witnesses. Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lupino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato recognized the cards. It was Lupino's favorite deck. Oh, I thought you were in danger. I am. The Ravens are coming. Oh, the prison thing. Right, yeah, we see this guard owed me 53 ducats, so we made a deal. They're very reasonable people, actually, for weasels. Now, I got a brilliant plan to kidnap Zenobia.
We capture Zenobia, we find out what she knows, and that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who happened to also be a deadly sorcerer, and, oh, his only daughter? That would be worth it. And it would be nice to see her. He'd always had a soft spot for her. And he felt sure she had one for him.
On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing. It must have great power. Zenobia wasn't just the Emperor's daughter, of course. She'd been Renato's best friend in Sword Fu school. And you're still mad for her, the rabbit reminded him.
The rabbit had a point, and Renato had a feeling she'd want to see him again. Who knows what could happen between the two of them this time around?
She knows all his plans, chuckled the master spy. She won't give them up easily. She'll tell the interrogators, all right, said Lapino. Taking her would change the game, all right.
The city was already under Zenobia's control. I had to admire her efficiency. Renato shivered at the thought of Zenobia at the mercy of the interrogators. Could he really turn her over to them? But this was war. It wasn't meant to be pretty.
Beautifully. What was a bard when you needed one? Ooh, sparkly, thought Renato.
Boy, if looks could kill.
So, what's this plan of yours? Use me as bait, said Lapino. And he outlined a slightly complicated plan that involved geese, a net, setting the Farfarer a little bit on fire, Lapino dressing as an old blind toad, and Renato hiding inside a monstrous watermelon.
What could possibly go wrong? Thought Renato.
Oh, this is gonna be fun, said Lapino, as he ran to go set up his marvelous plan. Hey! Hey, a workbench! He could try out his new bling. Renato felt dubious about the whole plan. With every step, he was waiting for it all to go horribly wrong. But against all odds, Peppino's idiotic plan worked. Zenobia's ravens ran off after the geese, the net dropped, and Renato jumped out of the watermelon and put his sword to Zenobia's throat. Reynardo, she said. Are those new scars? They look good on you. You never returned my velvet jacket. It was my favorite. You look stupid in velvet. Ah, what does an imperial princess know about style?
Ah, get a room, you two, said Lupino, probably sensing the chemistry.
But the fleet was coming on fast, so they took Zenobia east, over the Nexus. She'd vanished from Swordfu School, from his life, without even saying goodbye. Without ever telling him she was the Emperor's adopted daughter.
Reynardo was aware of her feelings. Maybe this was a bad idea, but was he letting his own feelings get the better of him? Listen, said Reynardo. Let's not do this. Let's not do what? Asked Zenobia. Look, you're the Emperor's right hand. You are going to have me interrogated, he said. Sure, yeah, but then I remembered how you feel about me. How I feel about you. You are going to have me interrogated. But I didn't, because you care about me, said Reynardo. Well, guess again, Buster, she said, and she pushed him off his own boat. As he plummeted towards the bottomless clouds of the abyss, Reynardo decided that he'd not really handle the situation with his usual finesse.
He had tried something bold and paid the price for it.
The city was already under Zenobia's control. I had to admire her efficiency. Reynardo shivered at the thought of Zenobia at the mercy of the interrogators. Could he really turn her over to them? But this was war. It wasn't meant to be pretty. He needed some way to break the ice with this war, so to speak. These things could really use a hand.
So, what's this plan of yours?
Use me as bait, said Lupino. And he outlined a slightly complicated plan that involved geese, a net, setting the Farfarer a little bit on fire, Lupino dressing as an old blind toad, and Reynardo hiding inside a monstrous watermelon. What could possibly go wrong? Thought Reynardo. Oh, this is gonna be fun, said Lupino, as he ran to go set up his marvelous plan. Ooh, a workbench. Did he have any jewels he hadn't tried out?
He had.
Oh, hey, there's a couple of red spots on your feathers. Oh, wait,
Not yet.
Renato felt dubious about the whole plan. With every step, he was waiting for it all to go horribly wrong. But against all odds, Peppino's idiotic plan worked. Zenobia's ravens ran off after the geese, the net dropped, and Renato jumped out of the watermelon and put his sword to Zenobia's throat.
Renato, she said. Are those new scars? They look good on you. You never returned my velvet jacket. It was my favorite. You look stupid in velvet. Ah, what does an imperial princess know about style?
Ah, get a room, you two, said Lupino, probably sensing the chemistry.
But the fleet was coming on fast, so they took Zenobia east, over the Nexus. She'd vanished from Swordfu School, from his life, without even saying goodbye, without ever telling him she was the Emperor's adopted daughter.
Renato was aware of her feelings. Maybe this was a bad idea, but was he letting his own feelings get the better of him?
Ah, Lupino was right, Renato thought reluctantly. She knows things. She recognized his look. You're taking me to the interrogators, aren't you? She said, wide-eyed. And then she jumped, with horror. Renato saw Zenobia plummeting. Then he saw the Nexus below them. Cats always land on their feet. Ah, she'll head for the Imperial outpost, yelled Lupino. You have to catch her. Cats can run faster, but foxes can run longer. If he ran, he could head her off before she reached her minions at the outpost. Well, he did love a good chase.
Is that your shield? Once you try it, you're hooked. Where he could find a snack. He was feeling a bit
He was closing on her. He could smell her fear. He tried not to think about the interrogators at the secret base. What they'd do to her. Maybe it didn't have to end that way. Maybe he could talk to her. But, after all, there were worse things the Imperials had done to friends of his.
This was definitely better than pulling yourself up in a bucket.
Renato reached the outpost. The Imperials there were no match for him. Soon after, Zenobia limped up the path. When she realized he was already in front of her, she didn't even try to run. "Oh, you left without saying goodbye." Again, he said, "Please, you're enjoying this a little too much." She said, shaken. "Oh, spare us the chit-chat, would you?" said Lapino as he shackled her hands so she couldn't throw spells. "She knows all his plans." All the way back to the Farfarer, Lapino nagged Renato about how the interrogators would pry all the intel out of Zenobia. How that would turn the tides in the imminent battle. All they had to do was take her to the rebels' secret base. Renato didn't like to think about what the interrogators would do to her. Couldn't he just talk to her? As they pulled away from the Nexus, Renato could see the fear in Zenobia's eyes. "I can't take her to those creatures at the base," he whispered to Lapino. "Ah, you've gone soft. Soft in the head. We captured her for what she knows. I'll take her to the mountains. Tell all the horrible things the Emperor's done. Yeah, believe me, she'll turn." And he turned the wheel. "The hell you will!" shouted Lapino, and he grabbed the wheel back from him. The two of them wrestled for control of the ship. It shot off like a mad sparrow. Suddenly, Renato was falling. When he came to, Zenobia was standing over him. "Why didn't you take me to the base to be interrogated?" she demanded. "Do you know what's left of people they interrogate? This is some trick, isn't it? To make me fall for you again. Well, I won't." "Oh, go on then. Scurry back to your ravens. I can't stop you." But strangely, she didn't. As Renato set off to find the Farfarer, she followed him, keeping just out of sight of the ravens. That was always a rush. It was good to practice your moves, thought Renato. Keeps you limber. There had to be something useful in these things, didn't there? What's there?
There was an inscription. No spitting.
As Renato stopped to sniff the wind, Zenobia came up, still mad.
Did you really think you'd just talk me into betraying my father?
Oh yeah, sure, that was exactly my plan.
Then why aren't you even talking to me?
Because I've never talked you into anything in my life.
They're gonna court-martial you for letting me go.
He caught a whiff of the Farfarer. Wet rope, tar, and a cask of Scobel ale he'd spilt last year.
It was that way. Renato wondered if he should have taken Zenobia to the rebel base for real. Maybe she wasn't playing him after all. After the bleak talk about the Emperor's dark secrets, he was regretting his suspicion.
Sure enough, the Farfarer had crashed in some rocks. There was no sign of Lapino. Zenobia caught up.
All that kid stuff in Swordfu School. Look, that's the past. We're adults now. We have duties to other people. And we have destinies.
What are you talking about?
And you are the most arrogant, slow-witted, light-fingered, mercenary, immoral, reckless...
Run away with me, said Renato, and he realized he meant it.
What? Just like that?
She demanded. I will, if you will. So, she kissed him. And it was the best kiss he'd ever had.
They held hands as they boarded the Farfarer.
Renato felt light-hearted, like the winds that were playing the rigging like a balalaika. But Lapino, I need to get back to Lapino, he said, suddenly realizing he could have been captured. A prisoner.
He's not.
How'd you know? He saw something in her eyes he didn't understand. He fell, didn't he? Into the abyss.
She looked away, wouldn't answer.
But then a bolt smashed through the Farfarer's keel. The broken ship plummeted out of the clouds.
Renato picked himself off the deck. They were alive.
We have to get to my private ship, she said. Do you trust me? I guess I must, he said. You go on ahead. Clear the path, she said. I can't kill my own soldiers.
He wanted to say that he didn't trust her, that he had no idea what he was getting into. But he had no choice, did he? He was following his heart. That's what it means to be a hero. You had to follow your heart. Cool. Wish I could do that.
Don't go away.
Renata felt a little better. He was sort of yanking his own chain, wasn't he?
I think this is yours, said Renato. But he couldn't hear his enemy's answer. Thought Renato.
Catch their breath. It was strange to be so close to her. What are you thinking? He asked. I'm trying very hard not to think. Me too, he said. Up ahead, he could see the thin silver of Zenobia's personal ship. It looked fast. They would leave all this behind.
A very clever engineer named Elon Muskrat got his start making floating platforms. Not many people knew that.
Sharp? Check. Pointy? Check. Flexible? Check. What else do you need in this? As they reached her ship, Renato suddenly felt a sharp pain in his stomach. He was surprised to see a crossbow bolt sticking out of it. "I was going to lead the Empire to our secret base," said Lapino. "But no, you had to screw up my plan because you've still got a thing for her." Renato stared at Zenobia. The kiss. Was it real? She said, with a look of indescribable sorrow. She gestured and said an arcane word, and Lapino went flying into the abyss, screaming, "I'm telling your father!" Then she knelt down to cradle his head, and her paws felt very soft and warm. Renato stared at the book. He was still alive. Again. And still only flying away from burning Ubar. Had he lived that adventure? Or only dreamt it? Had he really died? It felt so real, not like a dream at all. And he'd lost again. Oh, he hated that. But he had made different choices. And he'd lost in a different way. It was the book, wasn't it? Oracles showed you your destiny. But this was showing him different ways he could die miserably. Thanks a bunch, book, he thought. But these were destinies that he did not have to fulfill. But he'd learned another true thing. Lapino was a traitor. Renato had suspected there was something wrong with the mad rabbit. But now he knew there was malice behind his goofiness. But that meant there must be a destiny where he survived and won, right? Otherwise, what was the point? And with that, the book's pages fluttered back once more to the beginning, and the clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Or so a scholar in the mountains had told him. Surely the weapon that banished the lost gods could defeat the Emperor. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert.
The Emperor had brought the Sky Ripper pieces up out of ancient burial by his obscene rituals. Could this be where the Iblis Stone was hidden? Someone better get it before he does, thought Renato. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course. Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. But could Renato really leave an old friend to the Ravens?